Hi, this is Daniel Rosenthal again. Come back to you with the NFL draft, and we'll just jump right into 1981. And the first overall pick by the New Orleans Saints was George Rogers, running back from South Carolina. Pretty sure I've heard of him before. I think he had a pretty decent career. Again, pretty decent is completely subjective and obviously arbitrary, depending on if I remember the guy or not, which is completely random because I'm a total nobody. But that's okay. George Rogers, wow. Okay. The number two overall pick in 1981, probably one of the most famous persons in the NFL in the last 50 years. I think everybody knows who it is. New York Giants took Lawrence Taylor, linebacker from North Carolina, considered one of the greatest defensive back, the greatest defensive player of all time. I think number one. Some people put Deion Sanders up there, but I'm sorry. I saw Deion's career. I saw the tail end of Lawrence Taylor's career. Nobody was more feared than Lawrence Taylor. I think Deion Sanders might agree to that. Deion Sanders, of course, faster, played a totally different position. Amazing punt returner, of course, both of them on the Hall of Fame. So, Lawrence Taylor, I mean, what more can a person really say about this guy? I think anybody who grew up in the 80s, 90s, I was a kid and I mean, I remember this guy just destroyed all the quarterbacks. We've all seen the highlights. Just insane. Lawrence Taylor, amazing. You don't need me to tell you that. Okay, number three, New York Jets. Freeman McNeil, running back from UCLA. Seattle Seahawks. Kenny Easley, defensive back from UCLA. St. Louis Cardinals. Again, eventually they moved to Arizona. EJ Jr. from Alabama. Green Bay Packers, Rich Campbell, quarterback for California. Sorry, Rich. I'm sure you're an amazing guy. Never heard of you. Doesn't mean anything because I'm a nobody. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, seventh pick in the first round. Hugh Green, linebacker from Pittsburgh. San Francisco 49ers. Whoa, another candidate for one of the greatest, if not the greatest, defensive backs, safeties in the NFL history. Ronnie Lott, legend. I mean, the guy bit his finger off to keep on playing. I mean, I think everybody knows about that. Guy was insane, massive hits, totally outlawed in today's NFL, which I'm not going to get into so much right now. Ronnie Lott up there, Lawrence Taylor. Whoo! I put you because you could hit, dude. I mean, it's also like preferences and who you grew up with and who you grew up watching. And I was like in the NFC, that time period because I grew up in basically my whole life was watching NFC teams. So even though you played in the West and I grew up in Michigan, so plenty of plays, plenty of games with you. Thank you, Ryan Lott. Not that you need my, appreciation. Los Angeles Rams, Mel Owens. So we already have for sure two Hall of Famers in these first round. Okay, sorry. Los Angeles Rams, Mel Owens, linebacker from Michigan. Cincinnati Bengals, David Vassar, wide receiver, Kansas. Chicago Bears, Keith Van Horn, tackle from Southern California. Did you play basketball? Did you have a brother who played basketball? I feel like I've heard that name, but in basketball. Okay. Baltimore Colts. Eventually they moved to Indianapolis. Randy McMillan, running back from Pittsburgh. Miami Dolphins, David Overstreet. Hard to draft running backs. Very, very difficult. As we all know. David Overstreet, running back for Oklahoma. Kansas City Chiefs, Willie Scott, tight end from Southern California. You know what I've noticed is really, really difficult to draft quarterbacks, and they weren't drafted very high in 1980, and they weren't drafted very high in 1981. So we're coming to find out. I think that became a later thing when quarterbacks were like so coveted. I was kind of surprised they weren't coveted in the 80s, but whatever. At least in 81 and 82. 80 and 81. Kansas City Chiefs went with Willie Scott, tight end from South Carolina. Denver Broncos, Dennis Smith, defensive back from Southern California. Detroit Lions, Mark Nichols, wide receiver, San Jose State. Detroit, not very good at drafting. Pittsburgh Steelers, Keith Gary, defensive end, Oklahoma. Baltimore Colts had two in the first round. Donnell Thompson, defensive tackle from North Carolina. New England Patriots, Brian Holloway, tackle from Stanford. Washington Not allowed to say it. I said it in the previous video. I won't say it anymore. We all know what they were called. Mark May, tackle for Pittsburgh. Oakland Raiders, now in Las Vegas. Mark May, tackle for Pittsburgh. Oakland Raiders. Ted Watts, defensive back from Texas Tech. Cleveland Browns. Now, this Browns team eventually moved to Baltimore, and the Baltimore team became Cleveland, or Cleveland got a new team at some point, I believe. I think 99, maybe 2000, somewhere in there, but we're not there yet. Oakland Raiders, Ted Watts, defensive back, Texas Tech. 22, Cleveland Browns, Hanford Dixon, defensive backs of the Mississippi. I think we're going to start seeing a trend where the Cleveland Browns are not good at drafting. Oakland Raiders again, Curtis Marsh, tackle from Washington. San Diego Chargers, now in Los Angeles. James Brooke, running back from Auburn. Atlanta Falcons, Bobby Butler, defensive back from Florida State. Dallas Cowboys, Howard Richards, tackle from Missouri. Philadelphia Eagles, Leonard Mitchell, defensive end from Houston. Buffalo Bills, Booker Moore, running back from Penn State. Very, very difficult to draft running backs, as we're going to see. Drafting the first round in general. Buffalo Bills, I believe I said that. Booker Moore, running back. I'm sorry if I repeated myself. Running back from Penn State. New Orleans Saints, Russell Gary, defensive back from Nebraska. I believe I remember hearing his name, so maybe he was on the radar map for a few years. 30, New York Jets, Marion Barber, running back from Nebraska. And 31, Seattle Seahawks, David Hughes, running back from Boise State. I think we're seeing a pattern about how difficult it is to draft in the first round and draft running backs in general. Drafting any position, but especially the offense, it seems. And the last pick, the first round, I mean, this says second round, but there's 32 teams, so I'm just going to read the 32nd pick, was New York Giants' Dave Young, tight end from Purdue. And, I mean, Ronnie Lott and Lawrence Taylor in the same draft. Whoa. Bye.